Morning, Jen.
Hello.
We're finally back to answer the rest of your Dahlia questions that you had sent through. Sorry for the time lag, but we're going to break it up into a couple of short videos as the last one was quite mammoth, and so we thought this might be a little bit easier and more palatable for you to watch. So we'll start off with a few questions we'd had about digging and dividing. So really, why do we dig?
Okay, so not everybody needs to dig their dahlias over winter. Depending on where you are in New Zealand, if you've got like a really, really cold, frosty climate with quite heavy soil and it's not free draining, I definitely recommend digging. Otherwise, you are more at risk of the rot. And then the other option is with having plenty of rain, like if you've got heaps and heaps of rain as well, they are, higher risk of rotting as well. But other than that, I think most parts of New Zealand are pretty good to leave in. And I know here we can leave them in if we've got a really good layer of mulch to kind of protect from the frost, because we do have quite good free draining soil in central. I know for my growing patch and yours as well, Sarah.
I left mine in this last winter and most of them survived. It tends to be the breeds that want to die, and we all know those ones. The ones we're all looking for again the next season because we've lost them because they haven't stored well, or or it was the ones that were quite near the surface that got a bit of frost damage. The tubers on the top rotted, but I managed most of them. There was enough tubers down below that they still survived. So
Certainly.
And then when you are digging, should you divide straight away?
Not necessarily. I find I've trialled a few different things with our systems that we have, and have found leaving them in their clumps is the best for where we are. Just with our storage and things, I've got a big shed that has got a studio on it, and we just have them all in there. It's protected from too much cold, but it doesn't get too hot as well. And for us, we dig them up, leave them in their clumps, don't wash any soil off, and put them in a fish bin, tip them upside down so that any water that's in the crown kind of drains out, because that's one of the higher risk areas of the rot, and just leave them like that all winter long and then divide them. But then some people like to divide when they first dig them, so that the eyes are more visible earlier in that kind of autumn time, as opposed to if you dig them in the winter, then the eyes kind of are in hibernation mode, so you can't see them. So then that way you've kind of able to divide accurately. Or you can just leave them in the clump, wash them, leave them in clumps, leave them in sawdust or vermiculite, and then divide them in spring when the eyes are starting to poke up a bit. So.
Great. And is there anything we need to look for when we're digging them up?
So I always check through the crown area just in case there's any gall or anything like that. I know a lot of people kind of are very aware of diseases and things. We make sure that anything that we dig up is checked over, so you can I move away a bit of that soil initially so that I can check that, and then they either don't tend to find anything like that in our garden, thankfully. We're pretty good with our sanitisation and all of those things with our crop. They're pretty precious to us. So, but I do recommend that if you are wanting to check for diseases and things, that's a good time to do it. So.
And what about rot? Do you do anything with looking for rot at that point?
Depending on when you've dug them. When we dig, it seems to be a good time where it hasn't had time to set in or anything like that. We wait probably a couple of weeks after that first initial frost, and then cut them back and then dig then, and then they haven't had a chance to kind of get too damp or cold. We're kind of having the odd frost in that time, but nothing super heavy that goes right down underneath the soil layer.
I dug a few recently, and I noticed that actually the mother tuber was partially rotted out.
Yeah.
So in that situation, I removed them. I assume that was the right thing to do.
Yeah, because then it has a tendency to kind of
because I didn't want it to spread through.
Yeah. So it does depend if you're washing them as well. Like you can kind of see a bit more. Whereas mine they're in their soil, they're in a bin, and they're left like that. And I found that that's the one way that is the easiest for us to kind of deal with it dividing stage at the end of the season.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing that, Jen, and we'll be back with another video soon.